Welcome again. We want to get our program started, and I'd like to introduce Commissioner Frank Baca.
Thank you. Thank you, Everett. I'm here simply to welcome you all and appreciate you all coming this afternoon, taking time in from your daily life, your busy life in the evening. My name is Frank Baca. I am a relatively newly elected commissioner for this area as of January 1st. However, I'm not new to this community. I was born and raised here in the South Valley, about a couple miles from where we sit right now, and so I'm very familiar with this community, and this is where I decided to make my stand. I tell people that we have so many positive things going on in our community, so many assets. There's so many parts of our community that we know, that those of us that live here know and understand. But we also have challenges, and it doesn't make any sense to me to ignore our challenges. We have to acknowledge our strengths and be aware of our challenges and our weaknesses. I think that we're doing a pretty good job at that, and I think Bernalillo County, since I've been involved, has been a big leader in that. I see our county manager back there, Cindy Chavich, want to wave? I see our Director of Community Services, Danette Townsend, right next to her, Danette, there she waves. I see Marcos Gonzalez, our Director of Economic Development, and his team, Carolyn. And so what I've learned over the last 6 months is that there are many really good things, many positive things going on in our community. And so my job as a commissioner is not to lead the charge, not to come up with new ideas, innovations. My role, I think, is to stand up and hear and then stand out of the way. Hear what's going on, understand what's happening, help in any way I can, promote, but not necessarily to be in front leading the charge. So why I'm up here talking first, I'm not sure. But any event, but thank you all for coming. I appreciate your taking time to be here. And I think this economic development listening session is really important, because what I've been preaching to anybody who will listen, and have been for many, many years, is that we have to listen to the community. We have to engage with the community. And that doesn't mean we always agree with the community. I mean, truth be told, I don't agree with my ex-wife on everything, right? But that doesn't mean that we don't have discussions or listen from time to time, right? So this process is so important, and I appreciate the staff of Bernalillo County. And quite frankly, I think the impetus, if I'm not mistaken, came from fellow Commissioner Barbara Baca. I think her and her staff were the ones that led this charge, if I'm not mistaken. If I am, please correct me. But anyway, so I'd like to give credit to the commission, our staff, our manager, because this is a great opportunity to make a positive change in our community. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Commissioner Baca. And we have a word from the county just to give us some context as to why we're here. Magic.
Hello, I'm Marcos Gonzalez, Executive Development Officer for Bernalillo County. Thank you for attending this community dialogue. So why are we here today? The goal of economic development at Bernalillo County is to create an environment for businesses to thrive and improve the quality of life of all county residents. We have organized these community dialogues in response to a request from the Bernalillo County Commission. We want to hear what you think is important related to economic development. Your comments will be used to develop the Economic Development Department's future strategies and programming. They will also guide any amendments that may be necessary to add to our financing policies in order to deliver these community-informed strategies. We appreciate your time and being part of this conversation. We invite you to continue to engage throughout this process by accessing our materials and research on our website, attending other meetings, and completing our stakeholder survey. We look forward to sharing all of this information gathered in this process with our County Commission as well as with you. Thank you.
All right. So we will make a few adjustments to our agenda because we want to, again, thank you for being here, but also want to respect your time and try to get you home around the time we promised, but still have both robust and substantive set of dialogues. So we're going to move through actually three things here. And the first thing we're going to do is a couple of intro questions for you at your tables, just so you can get to know your neighbors a little bit more. And there are packets on your table. There should be, well, I'll start here. There's some boxes like this on your table, on every table. Don't worry about the package yet. There are these little half sheets on your table. And what we'd like for you to do is get ready to be in a conversation just to tell the folks at your table your name, what part of the county you come from, and ostensibly the South Valley. This is the South Valley conversation, but they'll be open to other folks later. And then on these half sheets, we want you to capture, what does economic development mean to you? We want you to actually write the answer to that, capture it here. So I'll give you a couple moments to think about that and ask you in terms of just as we dialogue tonight, just a few guides that we'd ask that you would be willing to entertain. One is to really be active in your conversation, right? As you're talking to your neighbors, make sure that we're being active participants and listeners as well. We try to both speak and listen with respect, right, to what our folks at our table are telling us. Ask for clarification if someone says something that you're not sure of, right? And just find a moment to ask them if they could clarify what they were saying. And if you are in need of help, there's also a red card in your packets. If you have a question or you need me to come to your table, if you just wave this, I'll know to show up over there, right? And Robert, you don't get to wave this the entire time. So we're going to start with this intro dialogue. And again, at your tables, we'll give you a couple minutes to talk to each other and tell each other your name, what part of the county you're from, and what does economic development mean to you? And again, we'd like for you to grab a pen or a marker and actually memorialize that on one of those half sheets at your table. So I'm going to go ahead and invite you all to that conversation now. Okay, we'll give you another 2 minutes in this dialogue, and then we're going to have some folks come around and collect your half sheets. All right, folks, we're going to invite you to bring that discussion to a close, and we'll start sending around some folks if you want just to pack up your half sheets. Do we have a table of young folks in the back? Dominic, Sierra, and Anita. So they'll be helping us out this evening, just kind of moving around, picking up some things from you. So they'll be coming around to pick up your half sheets, and they're actually going to place them in the back on that purple wall. That is a sticky wall. So all of your comments will be up so we can start to kind of look at them and start to look at what things look similar in those answers. So if you three would, and we will begin to pivot to where you do need the packets. And we'll move to our first topic, which is community benefits. And so you should have one of these, and you shouldn't have opened these yet, hopefully. Right? So if you can find the one that says D1, Community Dialogue, the number 1, there should be some printed sheets of paper in that first one, and it has a couple questions on it that we want to give you all about 20 minutes, 25 minutes to be in the discussion around those two questions. And so those two questions are, What community benefits do you believe are most important for fostering economic development in your area? And the second question is, what specific programs or services would you like to see implemented to enhance benefit to the community? So I'm going to give you all a block of about 20 minutes to be in discussion to answer those two questions. What we're asking is for each person, as you're in your conversation, filling out in your conversation about those two questions, to answer them on the sheets that are provided. That way we can actually capture your information. Yes. What a community benefit is? The question really is, what benefit do you think the community gets from economic development? Right? Or what could? Or possibly a benefit that the community is not receiving yet that they could from a more robust economic development strategy potentially. Thank you for the question, and thank you for the help on the answer. All right, we're going to invite you for the next 20 minutes or so to be in a discussion around these two questions. And about halfway in, I'll just make a call for, if you haven't pivoted to the second question in about 10 minutes, I'll make a call so you can pivot to that question. All right, we'll invite you all to start those dialogues now. If you haven't started working on the second question, we'll invite you to begin making that pivot now from the first question. All right, folks, just a reminder that we are asking you to capture your answers on each of those sheets of paper. That'll actually help us understand what you all are communicating in terms of the answers to those questions. So please don't forget to memorialize your answers on those sheets. All right, folks, we're going to give you a few more minutes in this discussion. So again, I'm going to remind you all to capture your answers on the sheets provided. Can you tell that's important to me? I keep saying that, Pete. And then we'll begin to pivot to a second topic and a couple more questions. All right, folks, we're going to invite you to both close your conversations on that first dialogue around community benefits, and we're going to ask you if someone at your table would capture each of those and just put it back in that envelope, because we're going to get ready to pivot to the second envelope on your table. So I'll give you about a minute or so to take all of your answers to the first question and get those back in the first envelope. And we'll send somebody around here in a second to pick those up. Yeah, that's for if you have a question. All right, you should also have on your table a second envelope that says D2, Dialogue 2. And it is a different topic that we're asking you to dialogue around. That topic is sustainability. And so our first question in this topic area, what sustainable practices should be prioritized in our economic development strategies? Second question, how can we balance economic growth with environmental stewardship in our communities? So we'll invite you to have those discussions, and if you choose, you can go talk about the first one and answer the first one and then move to the second, or you can have a general open discussion and answer those questions as the answers come to you. And we'll invite you to start those conversations now. All right, folks, if you haven't begun to talk about the second question, I'll invite you to begin bringing that question into your conversations now. All right, folks. I'm going to invite you to begin bringing that conversation to a close, and I wish I could, but we want to hear from each table about what you talked about. So I want to give some time for reporting out. So the fun part of the evening, when someone at the table has to be the intrepid spokesperson for your table, just to give about a minute overview of what you talked about. And just quickly, you notice on that sticky wall in the back, from your first question, as we looked at some of those themes, what emerged is that development should be both mindful and accessible, that there should be infrastructure developed, but it should be practical, very practical and usable, that growth should be community-driven, and there's a little graphic here that shows business, nonprofits, government being all part of community, that they all work together, right? And the last is that as we build jobs and create opportunities for employment, those should be sustainable jobs, right? So a quick theming analysis from the first question of what does economic development mean to you? Those are some of the themes that came from there. And so what we asked to do in the last 8-9 minutes of the time we have together tonight, I'd love to just go around to each table and give you just like a minute just to give us a sense of what your conversations were about, highlights from your conversations. And I think we'll have the microphone come to you. So I'm looking for someone fearless. Okay. Our first table here. Pete. Oh, is this your diagram?
Yeah,
Perfect.
when I saw that, I was like, oh my. Hi, everyone. I'm Pete Garcia. So as they said, that was my diagram, and my table was like, you're going to go first. And I'm really happy to be here tonight. I see so many faces that I know in the community. And I talked about how there's different sectors for different needs, and there's the community that needs the input. There's the businesses that need the workforce that needs, whether it be ADA compliant sidewalks. There's the nonprofits that also need the support from the community to have the resources for the community. And then the government has their own role. So each part of our community has a role to play in that economic development framework.
Excellent. Let's give that table a hand. And I saw, yes?
Thanks. Hey, everybody. Adam Silverman, happy to be here. We talked about quantum mechanics, quantum compute. No, I'm just kidding. We didn't talk about any of that stuff, you guys.
Wrong room.
Yeah, no, wrong room. This is the quantum physics room. Maybe we could get it. Quantum physics would figure this one out. Actually, we talked a lot about, I'm a commercial real estate developer, so I apologize, I centered the discussion around how do we work this through the built environment. And so we talked a little bit about site readiness. We talked about sustainable buildings. We talked about reusing existing buildings rather than tearing them down. You know, and I think the big one, if I didn't say it, was infrastructure. We have so much land in the county running water lines and sewer and roads and mass transportation. So when we do get some population growth, we're ready for it. And so that's what we covered at our table. Thank you. I'm not running for any political office, I
Excellent.
promise.
Let's give this group a hand.
Okay, we had a very robust conversation at our table. I'm Camila Feibelman. Nice to see everybody. So, you know, in the first question, I think some of us came to the table like, well, when big business comes here, here are the things that they should do to the benefit of the community. And it was sort of more of like a scoldy approach. That was me. But then a lot of the other people at the table were like, wait, economic development is all about building up small businesses. And if you're going to do that, how do you get word out about your business? And how do you make sure that you have health insurance? And so it was kind of like an interesting two-way approach to economic development that are probably commingled in a lot of ways. And then on the second question, the second question of the second round, we established that there's a false dichotomy that happens a lot, that economic development is somehow different or separate from environmental sustainability. You have no water, you're done. You don't use renewable energy, it will go away. You know, so just understanding that the two are commingled. And then on just general sustainable practices, we talked about some of the ones you'd expect: water conservation, energy conservation, but a big one is transportation. Can you breathe well when you're trying to get to work? Is it too hot? Can you get all the way to work? Can you afford the scooter or the car share? Are you in one of the city districts that has free transportation? There is citywide free public transportation, but there's also a pickup service in different districts, and if we could have that citywide, that would be helpful. And then Enrique made a huge point coming from Albuquerque High, which is kids don't see a future for themselves. So businesses coming here need to help make that link for kids to their future.
Excellent. Let's give that table a hand, please. Could you? No? Yeah.
Hi. Hi. So we talked about why we think it's important that we have a community rubric that's written by and for community, that's able to really identify what is the grade that we are giving these jobs, and what is the grade that we feel is fair and trustworthy. Eric. We also talked about how we want to ensure, obviously the benefits, high-paying, high-quality jobs, early childhood education, continuing the free buses that we love to use. There also needs to be like a really big emphasis on acequia care, bosque care, and how we're like maintaining the culture of the South Valley here, which like is rooted in colonialism. So how do we get back to our real roots here in the South Valley? And what does it mean and what does it look like to have a continued democratic process for residents to come in and say, this job treats me like shit. I hurt myself at this job. This job made me have a miscarriage. And that's what I think we need to be talking about.
Thank you. Just give that table a hand. And I'm just going to ask quickly, I think we have 4 other tables to share, and we technically have a couple minutes left. Can I ask you all's permission that we maybe stay an extra 5 minutes or so we can hear each of these tables? Is that okay? Yeah, okay. Thank you. And, okay, we'll go here and then here.
Hi, my name's Iran. We had a really great discussion at the table here. A lot of it focused on South Valley because most of the people here are from there and have deep roots. And so as for the community benefits, something that was, are we just talking about that or sustainability?
Just in general,
In
all
general,
of your
okay.
discussion.
We focused on really supporting the small businesses here and making sure that there is proper investment in them. And something that was mentioned specifically was providing capital for business development, also financial literacy and education training, and supporting community investment. Aside from that, something that really spoke to me was just having basic infrastructure like sidewalks, especially in the South Valley, for people to just get throughout their community safely. Maybe investing in like electric vehicles or buses for people to get to and from. And then workforce training for local residents. And then sustainability was focusing on local food production and making it so that food producers can do it in a way that is sustainable economically for them. And then not incentivizing huge businesses to put more, to take more money out of the community. Something specifically mentioned was Amazon. And so focusing on that small business investment again, decentralizing energy, and let's see, building green. Somebody mentioned building with Adobe, going back to like pre-colonial building, which is great. And then anything else? Yeah, and then just water, rainwater harvesting, better practices on conserving and water. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Give this table a hand. You all ready?
Hi, I'm Twyla, and I was forced to do this. So I just want to say, we talked about a whole lot of things over here and a lot of things about sustainability and making sure that we're bringing our young people in to this conversation from high school on, because, you know, we're all going to be gone one day and they're going to be the ones that are taking our place. But there was a question asked at this table that kind of stunned us all at that moment, and that was infinite growth is not possible. Right. And when you don't have growth in a space, in a city or a county, when you can no longer have growth, then where does the money come from? Because the tax base does not increase. There are not any more impact fees. There are not any more of the things that help neighborhoods stay clean and beautiful and running well. And I think on the Southwest Mesa, we see that very clearly, that the entire Southwest Mesa was built in the 80s, all at once. For those of us who lived here, at least it felt like it built all at once. And now there's really no other place for us to go. There's very little development here. And we're seeing the problems that come with the fact that our tax base is stagnant. So we are having trouble with infrastructure, sidewalks, lighting. Well, a lot of it didn't happen in the 80s when it should have, but even now coming up with the money to do all of those things. So I think that's a big thing that the county needs to be thinking about when you're talking about economic development. How do we do it inside the space we already have? And how do we make enough money to keep the communities running that we already have? So that was the question that kind of sidetracked us off to the side, and we ended up spending so much time talking about that we didn't get to the second question. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you for the ones you got to. So we have 2 tables left here. Don't all jump at the same time. Okay. Thank you.
I was forced into this too. So we had, my name's Clyde, by the way. We had a lot of conversations. Some of them were even about the questions we were supposed to be discussing. So a lot of what we talked about was because many of us at the table are from the South Valley, and we talked about, when it comes to economic growth, and we were weighing like, okay, the big Costco coming to the South Valley or Walmart versus, the convenience of having that. But then what does it do to the culture of the South Valley? What does it do to the scenery, to the agriculture? We're taking up farming space to build a Costco. So what are the pros and cons? We also talked about the youth. Like we want to keep the youth here in the South Valley. We talked about things like entertainment. How do we improve the entertainment? How do we improve infrastructure? How do we jobs, high-paying jobs for people so that they will stay in the South Valley? So it was more about a conversation about, like, how do we bring more people to the South Valley? And for some of us, myself included, being a longtime resident, I'm like pushing back. Well, do we really want more people coming to the South Valley? I kind of like it the way it is, right? But to your point, how do we sustain that without those impact fees and all those fees? How do we keep it the beautiful place that we have? So, and you guys did I miss anything? Please share. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you. Give this table a hand. We'll finish here. Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Isaiah Torres. I don't live in the South Valley, but I live in the North Valley, so I'm kind of, we had a lot of diversity at this table from where we're at, so I was really excited and engaged in this conversation. One of the, I think, the main narratives that we shared was a commitment to local hires, at least 60% or above. I think that's something that is really important. Also, the importance of using the excess money from just essentially, sorry, I don't think I'm the best person of saying this, but essentially whatever excess money we have through the IRB process that we have to have it fund apprenticeship startups. Essentially, the main goal is having good jobs with prevailing wages and benefits that are going to offer extended opportunities and real opportunities for growth. When we're talking about sustainability, one of the most sustainable things that we can do is have housing for individuals like myself and younger, especially affordable housing and just mixed-use housing. The importance of infrastructure, I believe a lot of people already touched on. And also, I just think in the main narrative is just prioritizing people over profits and just ensuring that we make sure that this community isn't, that we're prioritizing this community. But is there anything else you want to share?
Excellent. Thank you. And I want to thank all of you for being here this evening. And I live in the South Valley. It's only been 31 years, so I know I have right? I'm still a baby in terms of being here. But I very much appreciate you all being in this conversation and my having the ability to be in it with you. We want to tell you a couple more things before we let you go. My handy dandy little dude here. Next steps, we'll do some summaries. And so it's going to be really important that I'm going to ask you again to take all of the answers that you've written and get them back in the proper envelopes. After this is over, I'll be collecting all of that. And we will look at all of the answers and develop some summary themes. Yes. And as the video said before, that information will help both the steering committee and the commission, right? That input they'll be able to use to generate some of those strategies going forward. We want to let you know there are 4 other dialogues that will be happening in the next 6 weeks. Yeah, 6 weeks or so around West Side, North Valley, International District, Yeah, for all 5 of the county zones. Each one of those you can attend, right? Like they're place-based conversations, but you can attend them if you like to. 2 other things. One is there are also folks who have been invited to focus groups. So if you want to be in even deeper conversation around some of these things, I think folks have an opportunity to be a part of some focus groups that'll be coming soon as well. And on your tables, there are some flyers that have a QR code on it. And there is a survey behind this QR code that we'd also very much appreciate if you are able to find some time to hit that code and fill out that survey. So I think, yes. Each successive conversation will be different topic areas, so they won't be exactly the same questions. I mean, they may live in the same universe trying to get, but the questions will be driven by the actual topics. Good question. All right. Any final words, staff?
All of the resources and the reporting back, this entire process is available to you, the community. So we have all of that information on our website. The QR code on these boards or on the sheet that has the meetings, you can find out which which topic areas are at which meeting, and that will be constantly updated as those are evolving. You'll also be able to click through to a page and download every document, every piece of research that we're sharing with the steering committee is also available to you. So I just wanted you to know that that resource is available. Oh, absolutely. And yeah, please share the survey is available in multiple languages. There is a drop down at the top of the survey. You can select English, Vietnamese, a whole host of languages. So whatever language people are most comfortable responding in, we want your feedback. And please share. Share with your friends, family, coworkers. There is scope within the survey to get everybody's opinion. And we definitely want to hear what is important for you all. So just again, on behalf of the Economic Development Department, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your input and being engaged in Bernalillo County.
Excellent. As you leave, I just want to thank our translators and our IT folks. So if you could give them a hand. All right. Thank you all again and have a great evening.